This is where we left off in the last video. So I'd got a lot of the pins and the eye bolt bending dog made up, some of the thumb nuts. So in this video I want to work on the blocks, and there are two blocks to be made. It took me quite a while to trim these blocks down, and I also need to go and trim the ends down to the right length as well. So I'll start with that. It was a little bit of hard going trying to mill this flat here. I'd say that this steel is, I think, case hardened, or it seems to be hard on the outside here. Where these blue areas are, which are these outside of this steel block, you would have seen earlier when the block was around the other way and the blue side was here, and I was trying to mill it across, and the end mill's having a hard time. So I think this block of steel has been case hardened or something like that. Now the cut areas here, as you saw, I've milled around the perimeter and I've flipped it upside down there. I was just going to flatten the top off. But milling where the cut areas were seems to be no problem. It feels like mild steel there. So I think it's just the outside of this block where these blue areas are, that it's sort of case hardened, and I think I've maybe damaged the first end mill I did on the end previously, and this one still feels not too bad, but I think it had a bit of a hard time here. So I think I'm going to need to try and soften, I think they call it annealing, these blocks. So I might have to go and do a bit of research on that and then see what the best option I have for that. Okay, so a bit of research on the internet says that I need to get the steel cherry red hot and then let it cool down slowly, and that should take the hardness away from it. So this is the plan. I've got the two blocks in here. I've got the blue side here and the blue side here, so the flames will come round and hit here and hit here, and heat all of this up. The ends here are cut off with the hacksaw, so that's fine. The other ends are the blue sides that are hard as well. So they're at the bottom, and that's where all the flame will be going around from the bottom up. So I think it'll be able to heat these blocks consistently. Hopefully this works. First time I tried it. We'll fire it up and we'll see how it goes. I got the 2 blocks machined up there. So yeah, that worked not too bad with heating the blocks up to try and soften them a little bit. You know, it was a lot better than what it was before doing that. But still, some of those surfaces where the blue paint was, the outside surfaces, were still a little bit hard. So it was a little bit hard and slow going on the end mills there. So the next step is to put a hole from the top right through to the bottom, and that's so that the pin can go through it, and the block can be then moved to whatever position you want. So this hole that we're putting through won't be in the center, it'll be offset, and then that gives us 4 different positions for this block to be in terms of, you know, distance from the center of rotation as we rotate it around inside the bender frame. And how I plan to do that is firstly measure out where I need to go according to the plans, and then I'll put a center pop in there and I'll take it to the drill press and I'll use the centering drill, put a center where I need it, and then from there I'll put it in the 4-jaw chuck in the lathe. I'll put this dead center in the tailstock of the lathe, and that will line up with that center drill that I've put in there. And then from there, it's probably would be more like that. So clamped in the lathe here. This will be in the tailstock, and then I'll use a dial indicator, you know, because this will be going around like this, and I'll use a dial indicator to get that absolutely true in the lathe. And then from that point I'll be able to drill from the tailstock right through the part and just keep drilling that hole out, you know, piece by piece until we get to the right diameter. So just a bit of a correction here. There's actually a live center in the tailstock, and the dead center goes between the live center and into our hole, you know, made with the center drill. And then when you spin that around, you dial in the dead center, and then that will ensure that the hole in our block is in line with our tailstock and is in the right place. I've machined the blocks up, so they're pretty much all finished now. The last thing to do, I guess, is to probably hot glue them. I'll do that a little bit later on off camera. So the hole was bored in there, and it's bored off center. And the reason why is so that you can orientate this in the bender, and then you can get different distances from the pin to the face of the block here. So as you can see, it's you know, probably about 3/8 of an inch there, maybe getting 3/4 of an inch there, and we go larger as we go around. So there's 4 different positions that the blocks can be in. Let me throw it in the bender and I'll show you sort of how it fits in there. So the blocks are made so that they can actually fit into the swinging arm here. There's a little bit of clearance there, probably about 1/8 of an inch or something like that. So to put them in the a fixed arm, there's this little spacer here, and I'll put that in there now, but I'll show you what that does a little bit later on. Let's just put it in that hole for now, you'd take one of the pins. It can be the straight pin or it could be one of the U pins, and then you would put the pin through the hole until it goes right down, and then that block can swing around. So then you can have your different distances from that center hole or the center of the hole to the face of the block, depending on what you're bending and what die you have in the center here. And this is basically just an anchor to hold your work as you're bending it round. So that spacer that we put under the block here lifts that block up, and that is so the swinging arm can actually go right back underneath here without interfering with it. So that allows, you know, the swinging arm to move right round there, and for you to get a lot larger range in your bend coming round. The plan calls for 2 of these blocks, and the other block would fit in the swinging arm frame, just like this, with another pin, and again that can spin around to wherever you need it. So depending on what type of bends you're doing, you know, it would depend on where you put these blocks in which holes, and what other dies that you need to use for what you need to actually bend. So the next 2 parts I want to make for the bender are these 2 here. So this one here is what they call the U-pin support, and it's basically just a bar that runs under the fixed arm, and it stops the pins going right through. So if you're using, you know, one of these pins that don't have, you know, a stopper on it, it won't fall right through. It's basically a piece of 1/4 inch or 6mm bar, flat bar, and it's got a little bit of a bend in it, and that just bolts on underneath. And the second part is this center pin support. Again here it's, you know, 3/16 or 5mm thick, and it's just bent on a bit of an angle like that, and that allows you to adjust the height of your center pin. And that's what you need to do when you're bending, you know, smaller stock on top of the bender with the eye bolt bending dog, and your center pin has the, you know, different diameters to bend around. So these sort of, you know, work together, these parts, because this center pin support pivots on the bottom of here. So there's a bolt that goes through both of these parts, and that's how it's all held together underneath the fixed frame. I have the bracket finished here. I've just bolted it on just so you can see sort of how it works. So it has the lower part, and then if you move it across to there, then it has the higher part, and that's for that center pin to sit on. So in one position it will be there, and in the other position it will be down on that bottom piece. So it allows you to adjust the height of the pin so that you can do your bending around either this diameter or the smaller diameter here. And I made this pin a little bit longer than the specifications because I didn't know where this was all going to fit down here and how it was all going to work. So I'll be able to turn this down to the same diameter as the top here. So you just saw I'd tapped a couple of holes. It was these two holes here. So the one at the back and also the one at the front are used to hold the circle plate. So there's a big circle plate that goes around here, and they're clamped on underneath with these holes here. Now this hole in the front holds that circle plate, and also this lever that adjusts the center pin height. And what I've done now is I've actually put a bolt in there and set it up in the place where I actually want it, so I can go ahead and work on turning down the center pin to the right diameter. So I just need to work out whereabouts I need to turn the smaller diameter down to. And at the moment I have the center pin plate in the up position. So if I move it round and drop the pin down, then this is how much I need to take off. So I think I'll just mark that on here. And I'll just go a fraction past that, so it's going to be, you know, maybe just a fraction below the top of this. And then the bigger diameter is not going to interfere with the bending dog or anything that we use on the top here. Now these diameters are different, so I can turn the pin around. And we have a smaller diameter at the top, so I'm going to mark this one as well. And I think the plan actually had another center pin as well, so it might have had even smaller diameters on it. I'll have to have a look at that. So there might be two center pins that you can use, and they all have varying diameters for bending your smaller stocks around the top here with the eye bolt bending dog. So there you have it. There's quite a bit of tooling and stuff there. That'll get me started on some of the basic bends that we need to do. There's a whole bunch more tooling that you can make for these Hossfeld benders. There's a oscillating block that fits in here, the yoke that comes through, and to doing your bending square bar and flat bar. But I think I'll start making those items when I actually need to do some of those types of bends. And I'll definitely, videotape them and show you how I've done them. But for now, I mean, this is probably going to be the last video on the tooling until I need to make something else. So as always, thanks for watching.